What's up, you guys? Welcome to my ultimate tutorial guide thing here on this channel on how to play Lost Ark in the big 2025. This will be a special one, guys. It's going to be a long one, but I will have timestamps down listed below so you can skip around depending on your experience level. But by the end of this video, you should have a much better idea on how to get started in the game or pick back up where you left off. Now, it's important to note in this video, there have been a lot of changes that have taken place with Lost Ark over the past year, more so over the past couple of months, and we even expect a lot of changes to take place over the next couple of months throughout the remainder of the year. These changes are aimed at casualizing the game a bit more and making it more approachable for the average player, specifically when it comes to rating and gold progression. But hopefully by the end of this guide, you will be more informed on how to approach the game, and be sure to watch the end of the video because I will give specific advice on what you should do, how you should take advantage of the event, and the best way to progress through the game at a solid pace. Now, for the purpose of this video, guys, I will have access to the public test server for the upcoming patch. We have a massive patch that will be taking place, depending on when you're watching this video, on July 23rd. And there's a lot of the changes that I mentioned that will be showcased during this patch. So I will be showcasing some of these changes on this server, but keep in mind that this is just a test server and some of the assets, images, and certain dates might be out of place, but it should give you a better representation of what to expect with the upcoming patch. Now, before we get started, I want to give you guys some information on where you can get information on the game. There are three main websites that we do use today. One of them being uwu.oo, the other one being Lost Ark Nexus, and the third being maxroll.gg. These websites have a lot of useful information that you seek out for specific things, starting with oo.mathy.mo. What a crazy name, I know, but this website has so much useful data that you can use when trying to understand class loadouts for specific classes. If you want to target search a player, you can do that to see what top players are doing or using on your specific class. Additionally, I know a lot of you probably have questions on what class to pick, what's the best class. That can change depending on the season. The class balance fluctuates from time to time, so it's best for you to understand how to use this website. So if you want to see how classes are currently performing, you can do that under the stats page, but keep in mind that certain classes perform better in certain environments or certain fights depending on boss patterns and the overall fight itself. So you can go to the right and just go through some of the fights to get an idea of how classes are performing to get a better idea of what is currently meta. Additionally, it's important to note that although certain classes might not be at the top, they also provide valuable synergies to the group that are extremely desirable, like classes such as Gunlancer. So keep that in mind. Just because you're not at the top doesn't mean your class sucks. Additionally, this can change at any point, so it's better for you to pick a class that you do like, but we'll talk more about that later. Moving on to maxroll.gg, they have a lot of useful guides and resources. Not the most popular website, I should say, but they do have a lot of calculators and things that you can use for systems that we'll talk about later. But what I'd recommend this website for is for horizontal content. They're one of the few websites that do offer guides on how to progress various horizontal systems that you might want to know in the future. So keep that in mind. But for basic guides on your class that are community written, you can go to Lost Ark Nexus. This website is fantastic as it offers some of those calculators that I mentioned earlier. It also offers guides on some of the older raids as well as the newer ones. But additionally, there's Me Bald. But additionally, as mentioned earlier, you can find community written class guides that will break down how to play your class in depth, offer a variety of builds, rune options, things like that I will discuss later in the video. But all of the information on your class can be found here, and I highly recommend at some point during the launch week or the opening patch week, when you run out of content to do and you're waiting for the reset, to spend some time looking at your class guide so you can get a optimal rotation, because that will be a massive damage increase for you. Now, when you launch the game, you're going to be staring at this screen. It's going to ask you to select a region and a server. It's important to note that players from other regions located here at the top cannot play with characters from another region. You can play with players from another server within your region, but there is no cross-region gameplay. At the top, you'll notice they have Central Europe, North American West, and North American East. Central Europe being just fine on its own, you'll be playing with all European players. When it comes to West North America and East North America, again, they cannot play with each other, but we are expecting a region merge where these two regions will come together and be one glorified region. So at the current state, North American East is the more populated region. So even if you live on North American West, I recommend rolling on North American East for the time being until the merge. However, if you did have an established account on North American West, don't worry, at some point we'll get this merge in the upcoming year and you'll be able to play with all of your friends regardless of the region within North America. As far as the servers go, it doesn't really matter. Currently, I play on Lutera on North American East. I think Ratique is a rather popular server within Central Europe, but you will be able to play with players from all servers within that region, so I wouldn't sweat too much on your server selection. Now, once you select your region and server, you're going to be faced with selecting a class. And as I mentioned, I do recommend you go to Uwuowo, that website that will be linked down below, to get an idea of the general class performance if that is important to you. However, classes change all of the time. The performance of a class can differ from patch to patch, so do pick what looks exciting to you. There is a lot of classes to pick from, and you will be able to click on each class archetype, and then within the class archetype, there are several subclasses. This is essentially your main class, and you can go through some of them to get an idea of what the gameplay looks like. There are a few notable support classes in the game, such as Artist, Paladin, Bard, and then soon to be Valkyrie that will be releasing in August of 2025. Those supports are all fantastic if you do want to be a support player. Those are great options. They do have DPS variant builds. However, they're not that popular outside of Valkyrie having its DPS variant. You can roll a support and have a DPS build set up to complete content, and you can essentially make it work, but not a lot of players play the DPS variant of the support class. But again, pick the class that looks interesting to you. They all have their use cases. They will all perform just fine, with some classes being more popular than others. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm gonna pick a breaker because that is my favorite class, which is the male martial artist archetype. And you will be staring at the character creation screen. Now, on the right, we have some default preset options that all look pretty ugly. There's some hairstyles you can choose from. You can adjust the eye color, etc. But what you can do now is use the newly added style book function, which essentially allows you to look through player uploaded presets and skin dyes if you like the dye. If you want to get some skin info on the class, if you think it looks nice, you can copy some of these dye codes. But what you can do is you can go through your class archetype, select it, see if it looks good to you. And sometimes if these some bitches allow you to save or download their preset, you can save the appearance in your preset selection here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you can simply just copy this and load it and essentially create your character based on that. I actually like this one, so I'm gonna make this some bitch. I'm gonna call him the guide maker. And boom, we have our character. Now, when you're staring at this screen, you're going to have the option to A, play organically through the game, or B, if there's an event, use a power pass and play through the event process. Now, this game is an event-based game for returning or new players. A lot of Korean MMOs work that way. That's the time to play, is during event season. So this guide is going to be aimed at playing with an event, and a lot of the advice will be aimed at playing with an event. However, I don't think it is a bad idea to at least play a little bit organically before taking on the event. By playing organically, some players might recommend against this. I don't. I think it gives you an idea of how to just navigate the game, navigate the UI, open your inventory, go through the map, get used to what is on your screen, and at any point, you'll be given a free Power Pass for this event. You can come back to the screen and select Power Pass, and it will let you use an event Power Pass. You also can buy a Power Pass to essentially skip a large portion of the game and the MSQ and just throw you right into an end game portion of the game. You will be a little bit overwhelmed by doing this. You will be dropped off in a middle of nowhere in a town that you're unfamiliar with, but with this guide, it will help you navigate through all of that. So assuming you're using the Power Pass, we're going to go forward with that. But again, I don't think it's a bad idea to go through a little bit of the game to just understand how some of the functions work within Lost Ark. All right, guys, for the purpose of the video, again, we're going to be playing on the private test realm. So ignore the dates, ignore some of the assets that don't line up. It will give you a better idea of what to expect with the upcoming patch, as it's the most up-to-date information about the game. So let's launch in. All right, so here we are on my ugly character, and right now you're probably wondering what the hell is on my screen. There's so much stuff. I shouldn't have taken this Power Pass. It's okay. I'm going to walk you right through what is exactly on your screen. In the middle, we have some notifications that will pop up, oftentimes telling you have a quest to accept or something to do. We're just going to close that schnaz for right now, and we're going to be looking at a screen like this. We're going to start from the top left and rotate around. The top left, guys, you will often see across your screen red dots that signify you have something to click on or something to check out. I leave these up all the time. People hate it. But in the top left, you're gonna see most predominantly this playtime reward screen. This is just a reward for staying logged into the game. When you stay logged into the game for 90 minutes, you get some free juice. However, if you forget to claim this free juice, it's okay. It will actually go to your stored, go to guide universal storage for that character. So these are rewards that I didn't claim, and it's going to go into my universal storage that I can claim at another time. But to summarize, this is free juice for your character progression, and we'll break down what that juice actually is later. Another thing that's very important to note, again, these are just placeholders, and it might not be what's actually for the upcoming patch, but this is the daily login rewards. Like a calendar, every day you log in, you'll receive some free stuff, and a lot of the time, you might find some things that you actually need from this daily login reward system, especially if you are new. Lots of free mats here, things to claim. You might have a returning player bonus as well. It's daily login rewards. Now, if we rotate to the top right corner of the screen, you're going to see your mini map, but around your mini map will be a bunch of symbols, and those signify events. All of your events, which is probably the reason why you're checking out the game in the first place, are going to be located there. Now, if you are a returning, but more likely a brand new account, you're going to see something called the Arkesia Tour. The Arkesia Tour is essentially a fast track for a lot of the horizontal progression in the game. In Lost Ark, a lot of your horizontal progression is linked to pretty important things like cards, which we'll talk about later, skill point potions, extra stats that came from NPCs or quests that you might have missed. And this is something that took us a long time to do. But this is a fast track for that system. This is a permanent feature no matter when you start the game, and this is something that you should do the first week that you pick up the game. Each one of these is divided by levels. You're essentially going to go through this, follow this quest, tell you where it is by clicking that button right here. And then if you need a guide on how to do it, it will tell you what to do. But you can see here, these are all of the rewards that you will get for completing this level. You want to complete level 2, level 3, and level 4. Skill point potions, runes, reputations. It will auto-complete all of that. I'll go more in depth on what those things are, but you will need this. We also have something that comes up from time to time called the Ark Pass. This is just a battle pass that gives you some free juice regardless if you pay or not, and it's divided by levels. You'll do some basic missions. A lot of this can just be done by naturally playing the game. If you want to accelerate your progress, you'll look at specific missions that you need to do to make it go by faster, but you can see all of the rewards here. This is the free track on the left, and you get to select one item in each level that will aid you in your progression. There's a premium track that costs about $15 that will give you additional rewards. This is pretty solid if you do want to buy stuff. You don't, but it is pretty solid for the value. And then the super premium just includes usually a skin, maybe some Fions, which you probably don't really need, and then a card pack. So if you want the skin, you can buy the super premium. If you want extra progression, you can buy the premium, but just by playing the game, you'll get the basic track, and it is very solid. Now, oftentimes you'll see this little present in the top right. This one is going to be the event quest. This one specifically, I believe, will unlock at 1660 or 1640. I think it's 1640. This is just going to give you some extra stuff for doing various missions in the game. It's just free stuff, present, free stuff. Challenge Express is the one that's the most important. This is called the Super Makoko Express, the Hyper Express. They change the name all the time. This is the main juice. If you've played Maple Story, it's like a burning event. This is going to super track, super speed your progression in the game. You get to select one character with this. You can change the character you selected if you haven't done too much in the event, but make sure you select the right character before you do decide to progress through this event. As soon as you open this window, it will ask you which style you want to play. Style meaning which build. Every class has 2 builds, and you have 2 to choose from. You can change this at any time. So you can select this and then say, you know what, this build sucks, I don't like it, go try the other one. This will auto set up your character for you. It will auto select the engravings, the accessories, the gear, the skills that people typically use. It might not be 100% accurate, but it will basically immediately allow you to engage in combat and raids by just selecting one of these 2 options. From there, it will give you missions to progress through that will introduce systems to you one by one. And when you complete these missions, you're going to get a plethora of mats and just junk in your inventory that I will explain throughout this video, but it's a lot of juice. I'm gonna come back to this event at the end of the video, but that's what this is. Make sure you pick the right character. This is very important. Now, obviously, the bottom part of the screen, you have all of your abilities, the character UI, your HP, sometimes your mana bar, and then you have the bottom right, which is like your settings, your community tab. You don't really need to know all this stuff. You can go through this if you're bored, but the most important things, as I hello, it's me from the future. I forgot to include this part in the UI section, but when you are in the game and when navigating the UI, I think it's really important to note that when you press M and you're looking for something in the game, maybe I tell you to go to this vendor. Let's say I'm like, hey, go find the pet vendor. You can press M and then use the search function to type in the word pet, and then it will pop up with pet management and you can see it flashing on the screen. So if I tell you to go find something in a specific city, sometimes there isn't that vendor in the city, but a lot of times there is. Just use the search function to find where you are trying to go. It'll make it a lot easier. Back to the video. All right, now before we get into the power systems of the game in the character sheet and what's responsible for your character's power, you can actually skip a lot of this or use the timestamps down below to slowly incorporate some of these things into your knowledge database. Do not try to understand all of these all at once unless you're experienced with the game. The event itself will naturally give you a lot of these systems by default, but I do want to include these down in the video so that way you can come back to reference them when you do encounter these systems in the future. I think it's important to include them in the guide, but the game itself will introduce these to you one by one or automatically apply these to your event character. So with that being said, let's get into it. Now, moving on to probably the bulk of the video, you're gonna be dropped off in the middle of this city that I'm in right now called El Need, and you're gonna need this guide to progress through the motherfucking game. So once we log in the game, we're going to be dropped off here. I explained the UI elements. Press P for me, and this is going to show you after you've selected your style loadout, as I mentioned to the Challenge Express, you're going to be staring at a screen somewhat similar to this. Okay, my gear might be different. My item level is definitely going to be different. You'll be 1585, but I want to walk you through what's on this and what's responsible for your character's power because a lot has changed. And for the sake of this video, I'm not going to spend too much time on what specifically has changed. I want to talk about how it is now. So the first thing we're going to talk about, you'll see this screen right here. And on the left side of the screen, we have our gear. This is our helmet, shoulders, chest piece, leggings, gloves, weapon. On the right side of the screen, we have accessories, our necklace. We have 2 pairs of earrings in this game, 2 pairs of rings in this game. This is a bracelet, an ability stone, and this is the new system with Paradise called an orb. I'll talk about that a bit later. But take a look at and absorb the screen. You have something called roster level here. You have your character name. You have your character's current power or level rather, level 60, 70. You've heard that in other games before. We have something down here called Ark Passive. I'll spend a good amount of time on that. You have titles and other stuff here. And then on the right, outside of your accessories that I mentioned earlier, you have your character's item level. This is going to be the requirement to enter specific pieces of content. And you have a new thing called combat power. Combat power is added into the game on the July 23rd patch to basically give you an idea of how strong your character is. In the past, we used to use item level as that metric, but over time, it's not that accurate. This is combat power in MapleStory. This is how powerful your character is, not your item level. Let's move on back to the gear though. The gear is just gonna give you some basic stats. You're gonna eventually imbue things onto your gear like Transcendence and other systems that I'll talk about later, but your gear is just gonna give you basic stats. However, your gear, right, armor to weapon, is responsible for your item level. You're gonna hone this gear up, you're going to Star Force this gear up, you're going to enhance this gear up if you play MapleStory or Black Desert Online, and that's going to resemble your item level. But there's a lot of other benefits that your gear provides later. Your accessories now provide specific like attributes or lines. If you look at the accessories, you can see here on the right, we have things like outgoing damage, weapon power, brand power. To summarize this, your accessories can roll specific lines on them. The character that you get for the event will already have good enough lines already on them for you. Now, these lines are similar to what you would see on like Diablo or like a gacha game like Genshin, or maybe you've played like Wuthering Waves, lines on echoes, like echo lines. It's the same thing. There are specific lines that almost every class wants. There's no longer stats or engravings, it's just these lines. So for a necklace, you care about additional damage and outgoing damage. For earrings, you care about attack power percent or weapon power percent. And for rings, you care about crit damage percent and crit rate percent. This is what's going to be relevant for DPS players. For support players, they care about brand power percent. They care about, I believe, shield for party member percent, but I could be wrong. Your class guide will give you info on that. And then ally damage enhancement percent. Essentially, what you need to know, if it's not a percent, you don't really care. But most importantly to understand, your gear that you get from the event and the power pass will already have those things on there for you, so you don't really have to worry about that, okay? These items are also interchangeable between your characters because essentially your characters want those same lines. So in the past, we had like swiftness and crit on these accessories and engravings. None of that matters anymore. You just want damage on your accessories, and you're gonna enhance your gear for more item level so you can access more content. Now, with that being said, these items, and where did all those engravings go? Where did my stats go? What about crit, swiftness? If you don't know what those things are, don't worry. But if you did play, you're probably wondering, where did all those things go? Well, a lot of that is now baked into a new system in the game called Ark Passive. And why I like this system so much is it allows for customization, but it also resembles a lot of other MMOs that you've already played. This is the Ark Passive tree, by the way. Your gear is responsible for the evolution tree, your accessories are responsible for the Enlightment tree, and your bracelet is responsible for the leap tree. Let's start with the evolution tree. Evolution is where your stats went and your character set bonuses went. If you're brand new, this tree is responsible for how you add specific stats like crit, specialization, which has to deal with your identity skill. You'll learn about that later when you look at your guide, or swiftness, which is responsible for like CDR and movement speed, etc., right? The other stats are dog. No one cares about endurance, no one cares about expertise, and no one cares about domination. The only stats that matter are crit, spec, and swift. And on lostark.nexus, you can find an entire guide on exactly where to place your points. But all you need to know is that you can freely customize your stats at any point, and you can save a preset depending on the type of content you're doing. What's important to note though is that depending on the type of gear that you have, you'll be starting in relic gear, most likely based on the power pass. If you look towards the bottom, you can see evolution plus 12, 14, 16. The type of gear you have, this ancient gear, we call ancient gear white gear, has 20 evolution points. So to progress down this tree, it depends on the gear that you will get through different raids in the game, but also your character's combat level. As you do content in the game or as you progress through the event, they'll give you potions to level up. You know, max level in this game is currently 70. When you reach max level, you'll be able to spend more points in this tree, and you're just gonna copy the build that people play. Moving on to Enlightment though, just to make this a little bit easier to understand, this is your class talent tree. Every MMO has a class talent tree. This is it. And how you get points to spend in this is, again, two ways. It's your character's combat level. So as you level up in the game, you get more points to spend on your class talent tree. And then your accessories, if you look again at the bottom, you can see Enlightenment plus 10, Enlightenment plus 9, Enlightenment plus 9. Ancient accessories that you'll unlock later on in the game will give you more points to spend. On the left, we have one of your class builds, and on the right, we have another class build. And again, you can just freely swap between the two builds and just follow your class guide to try out different builds for your class. Moving on to your bracelet is responsible for the leap tree. The leap tree is responsible for your T skill in tier 4. Once you reach 1640 in our version, you will get a new skill slot for a T skill. Every class gets 2 of them, and they are very, very powerful. It also is responsible for a hyper awakening, which is like a cutscene or an origin skill from MapleStory, where you're completely immune to most things in the game and it does a bunch of damage. And this tree allows you to add some customization there. To summarize all of this, a guide will walk you through all of this, but this is responsible for your character stats and set bonuses. This is responsible for your class talent tree, and this is further class customization for your T skill and your hyper awakening. But moving on to the top, we're going to go on to the next chapter of your character sheet, and that's going to be engravings. If you've played Monster Hunter, this is where it was inspired from. They no longer come from your accessories anymore or your stone. You're going to just learn these, and as you read these, in the event will give you 5 fully completed legendary grade recipes or engravings. You're gonna just drag and drop them into. You have a bunch to select from. Obviously, you want to use the highest grade ones that you have, but each build will have preferred ones. So you just look at the guide. The guide will tell you, you want Grudge, you want Adrenaline, you want Keen, Blunt, Cursed-All, Master Brawler. It's important to note, though, that in the past, your Ability Stone, which we'll touch on later, was responsible for that. No longer the case. Your Ability Stone is not required to complete your build. All it does is it enhances your equipped engravings. Moving on to gems. Gems are just socketed into this slot right here. And what gems do is it does 2 things. A gem will either decrease the cooldown of one of your skills or increase the damage of one of your skills. A big notable change, though, in this patch is gems, bound gems. We have the old gem system that you've probably seen before if you played the game that looked like this. We had a damage gem that was responsible for damage. It was like the triangle one. And then we had a cooldown gem that was responsible for the cooldown, affecting the cooldown of the skill. Now, from this event specifically, and from the solo shop vendor I'll talk about later, you get something called bound gems. And bound gems are interchangeable. You don't need a damage or a cooldown gem. You can simply go to this thing right here and select if you want to increase the damage of a skill or reduce the cooldown of a skill for all the skills. And you can freely change between these at any point and even save it in a preset. I'll talk about that later. Finally, we have cards. Cards are a count-wide progression. If you press the Alt-C tab, you'll see all of the cards in the game. But more importantly, I'm on a new account, you'll see all of the sets in the game. And these card sets do different things. They reduce damage you take from different elements. They increase the damage you do to certain types of mobs or foes. But for this event, if you played the game in the past, you remember a card set called Light of Salvation 30. Light of Salvation is the meta card set, and this took a long time to acquire. However, for this event in particular, it will provide you a full Light of Salvation 30 card set as well as Lost Wind Cliff. Lost Wind Cliff card set is the meta card set for supports, where it amplifies your teammates' damage, and Light of Salvation is the meta damage card set that you will be using. You will get these maxed out, but there are other cards to collect. Now, in general, as you collect cards, you will gain various stats and bonuses. So collecting cards is definitely an important part of the game. It's definitely a way that you'll increase your account damage, but you'll get the main card sets you need from this specific event. Hello, it's me from the future, and I didn't include this in this portion of the video. When you are looking at your cards, make sure when you press the Alt-C menu, you go to the Enhance section and check the autosave function and click these two boxes. This is going to be pretty important as you open card packs. It's going to be really annoying to manually learn these cards. So by pressing this feature, every time you open a card pack, it will auto read and auto learn the cards, so your inventory is not super loaded. Moving on to your bracelet, usually you want your main stats on your bracelet. Again, your build will say, hey, like crit is the main stat, Swift is the secondary stat. And a lot of MMOs are like that, but it'll also provide unique effects. The event will just give you a default, pretty solid bracelet, by the way. Like Circulate Superiority for a tier 3 bracelet it's very good. And it's perfectly fine for now. But this again is going to be responsible for the leap progression. So at some point you're going to want to cut a good bracelet, and you can do that at the bracelet vendor, but I don't advise to even worry about this for the time being. You can just look into this later, ask me a question on my live stream, but you basically just roll the bracelet, and if you like what you got, you can take it and select it. If you roll you can lock one of the options if it's good. You're like, you know what? I want the strength. You would never do that shit, but you would lock it and then go, oh, I actually want spec. So spec is what I want. So I'll take that as well. You just roll the stats that you want on it, but again, the game will provide you that. And so you care about the main stat, your character's main stat, but you also care about the effects. There's a ton of effects to choose from. Usually you want percent ones. You can see there's so many different ones. You're gonna want the ones that look obvious, bro. Additional damage, crit rate, weapon power. You want things that do damage. If you see an effect that is like a incoming damage from challenge monster, you don't defense stuff, you don't care about that, okay? But again, the game's gonna give it to you. Don't stress all this stuff. You don't need to know all of this right away. I'm just explaining to you what the item actually is, and you get one by default. Let's move on to ability stones. You probably remember ability stones from the past. One of the worst systems in the game, and honestly, it still sucks. But there'll be a quest in the town if you've never done the quest before. You'll talk to this bozo. He'll ask you to cut a stone for him. Take the quest. This guy lets you cut stones. By default, you're going to get a solid great stone that you can use. But what a stone does now is it enhances the effectiveness of the engravings you have selected. So what you're looking for when you're playing the game is a stone that has 2 out of the 5 engravings that you have. So this stone, for example, it has Master Brawler on it, but it has Shield Piercing on it. I don't want that. But if it had Master Brawler and any of the other ones on the screen, I would then go to this guy and try to cut it, right? And as I try to cut it, I have a 75% chance to succeed. So it succeeded. I have a 65% chance to succeed. I did not succeed. And as you can see, when I fail, it goes up. So I'm gonna go back to this again. And then this is a negative at the bottom. I don't wanna succeed to level 1 at all. The goal of the system is to make it across this screen and try to reach the level 1, level 2 to enhance the effectiveness of these engravings. You see, both of these are level 2. This is provided by the game. You can keep the stone that they give you for literally ever. You don't really have to interact with the system, but that's what the stone is there for. It's responsible for HP, but also, that's vitality, by the way. It's also responsible for increasing the effectiveness of these 5 engravings. For those of you that played in the past, it is not responsible for making the build work. You just get to equip your engravings by default now. All right, moving on, guys. Let's go to our skills and everything that's on this menu. If you press K, it will open up your skill menu. And these are all of the skills that are available to your class. You have your default skills, you have your T skills of your 1640, and you have your awakening skills and your hyper awakening. And as mentioned earlier, if you just choose the style setting from the express event, or at the bottom here, you might have a style setting menu. If you power pass the character, it will automatically default give you a build. But the way that this works is you level up the skills on your toolkit, and as you level them up, it unlocks these things called tripods. And what these do is like a talent tree on that skill. It expands the skill and it changes the animation. It changes what the skill does. As you level up the skill, you'll be able to select another node within the skill specific tree to change how the skill works. Again, your guide will walk you through this. Some common lingo that we use is we might say, yeah, that build uses Brawl King Advance 1, 2, 1, right? You have 3 options, so we say 1, 2, 1. You might hear that from time to time. We used to have something called tripod levels, where these individual levels, you had to manually level these up to 5. They're all maxed now, for those of you that are wondering. So you're gonna copy your build, you're gonna spend your available skill points to try to max this out, and sometimes you might notice, hey, I'm out of points. Like, I don't have any more points to spend, and this build is telling me to get this skill to level 7, but I don't have that. That's because those skill point potions are probably located in your Arkesia Tour. By doing this content that I mentioned that you should do at some point this week, it gives you more skill points to spend, so you can spend within your build tree that is essential for the overall flow of your class. Additionally, level 10 will allow you to fully select all of the tripods within the skill. That's what we call them. But you can go beyond level 10 depending on your combat level, and every point past 10 will give you additional damage on the skill. It amplifies the damage of the skill. So some of your main damage dealing skills, like for Breaker, it's Eye of the Storm. You want to send that as far as you can, and it goes up to 14. So just keep that in mind. That's how skill points work. You also notice that you see these slots here. These are called runes, and these runes you will also acquire from the Arkesia Tour. It will give you a bunch of runes to place in your skills. These runes have different effects on them. They increase the cast speed of the skill. They increase the stagger of the skill. They add a bleed on the skill. They reduce the mana cost of the skill. You'll find all this in your build. Make sure you do the Arkesia Tour and then just place the runes that are supposed to go in the skill and then just press save. Moving on to honing. If you open the character sheet by pressing P, you're going to see this item level that I mentioned earlier at the top right corner of the screen. This is similar to star forcing in MapleStory. It's similar to enhancing in Black Desert Online. Honing is applied to your armor, and you can see it says plus 16, plus 13, plus 11. Max honing level is plus 25 for the tier. And you can look at your challenge express, try gear honing. It will tell you to try it. It will tell you to complete all missions within this. And then the next mission board is unlocked at 1600 character item level. So you're going to be honing your gear. And to hone your gear in this game, it's going to require some materials. I'm going to summarize the main materials that you're going to need. When you hone a piece of armor, you're going to need something called armor crystals, weapon crystals. You'll also see that you have bound ones and then unbound ones. Bound means that it's stuck on that character. Unbound means you can transfer it to a different character or you can sell it on the marketplace. You're also going to see something called leap stones, which are these guys right here. You're going to need something called fusion oreha or abydos. That's what we call it, and shards. And to simplify this, when you go to the honing screen, you're going to see the requirements. It's going to cost the armor. If I go to my weapon, it's going to cost the weapon. If I go back to my armor or weapon, it's going to cost the leap stones. This is the fusion material. And then we have something called shards. Shards you get from various pieces of content like chaos dungeons. And when you look at shards, we're going to have these orange shards. This is for tier 3, and you can see item level tier 3. and then we're going to have pink shards, and it says item level tier 4. One thing I wanted to note here is you can see that the shards have a green rarity for the tier 4 ones, and this is a purple rarity. All the rarity means when it comes to shards is how much is in the bag, right? So the green ones have less in the bag. The purple ones have more in the bag. Just make sure that when you are opening these chests, you're choosing and selecting the right ones when you go to the honing vendor. Don't open the wrong shards. By the honing vendor, there is going to be a guy in exchange where you can transfer up. So if you open the wrong ones or you have some leftovers, you can exchange them for the higher grade, the higher level ones. So I can exchange these up to get the ones that I want. And that applies to all of them. You can go for the leap stones and transfer them up. We can go to the red item. These are for the weapon. You can transfer these up. We have the blue for the armor. We have fusion materials. You can transfer these up depending on where you're at in the game. And you can do that for all the things, except you cannot transfer shards. So again, make sure you don't open all of these at once. Now back to the honing screen. Remember we talked about silver, and then we have gold. This is probably going to be, I would say, gold and fusion material are going to be like the bane of your existence, because these are the most time gated materials. A lot of these you can acquire from dailies, but sometimes you're just out of gold earning methods for the week, and sometimes you just can't make any more fusion material. But this is what's going to require to hone. So when you go to this screen and you want to enhance a piece of gear or hone a piece of gear or Starforce piece of gear, you're going to load up this thing. It's going to require these destiny shards. I'm going to press upgrade, and it's going to fill this up. Then I'm going to press gear honing, and I'm at a higher part of the game right here. So I can use one of these books. You're going to get these books. These will increase the percent chance. You can see here if I deselect it, the event will give you these, and you can check this box here to keep using the book every time you tap. And I can press gear honing, check the results. I can skip if I don't want to watch this. Like, I don't care, I failed. I can go again. I can go again, I can go again. And then if I fail, you can see I succeeded there. If I fail, and when I fail, I'm building something called Artisan Energy. This is a pity system that if I keep failing, eventually this will go to 100%. You can see I get 9%. The book actually increases it. So it's gonna make it so that I get 20% pity every tap. So I can tap, now you can see it's at 18%. I can go again, I hit. But eventually, if I were to keep failing, eventually my tap would be 100% succeed chance. And as I do this, you'll see that my item level is increasing. And as I increase my item level, I'll be able to progress through this event more easily. And I can access various pieces of content, like certain raids require specific item levels to enter. Now, depending on your experience level and where you're at in the game, we have other options of increasing this item level. We have something called special honing, and these tokens are awarded through various pieces of content. You might get these from raids. You might get this from the new Paradise system. You might get this through an event. These are basically free taps. Essentially, you don't gain any pity on this, and you don't gain any increased rates, but it costs no gold, silver, or anything per tap. It's a free attempt at trying to upgrade your gear. So you want to use these if you can to see if you get lucky at upgrading your gear. And boom, we're in a different outfit because I'm recording this video at a different time, but we're going to talk about advanced honing, a progression system that gives you cost-effective honing from a raid known as Echidna. Normal mode will provide these purple scales, while hard mode will provide these red eyes. You can actually acquire these eyes through the solo mode exchange vendor right here. And I can buy these out using these tokens every week. And this will allow me to expedite my advanced honing process. When you're advanced honing, what you want to know is that you actually want to get all of your gear to advanced honing level 10 first. And then from there, you want to then get all of your gear to advanced honing level 20. So when all of your gear is at plus 10, you'll gain 10 additional item level. When all of your gear is at a level 20, you'll gain an additional 10, 20 total. So it's 20 total item level that comes from advanced honing. So it requires the scales to go from 0 to 10 on a specific item. And then from 10 to 20, you'll use the eyes. But if you only have the eyes, don't worry. you can just convert downwards and it'll give you the option to do so. When you're tapping though, each tap that you do, it will light up these orbs. And when the dwarf is glowing after 6 taps, you want to make sure you select these scrolls and any glacier breaths that you might have, because when you do that, it increases the chance that you'll see a success or a great success and a great success 2x. This is just like the other books that you've had or other additional materials. It increases your honing chance. And we want to try to juice up this tap to see a great success or a 2x with these orbs lit up, because these orbs provide additional effects and it does this combo. You can read some of the effects on the right side of your screen, but you can see here that I'll get a great success, and then sometimes I'll get this chisel effect that kind of sucks. But there's also some really good effects. So hopefully we hit one here, and I got a 3x, so it's going to increase what I just tapped by 3 times. The purple scrolls are used for the additional effect on taps 0 to 10, and the legendary or yellow scrolls are used from 10 to 20. All of these materials will be provided to you. They'll be put in your inventory. And so as long as you know what I just mentioned, you should be good to go. All right, moving on to another raid progression system that the event will provide you. It's actually an old system that was revamped. This system used to suck big Johansson. And it honestly still kind of stinks, but the game and the event will just give you this pretty much for free. It's called Elixirs. What you need to understand about Elixirs is you will imbue them on your gear, and I will have a link to Elixirs down in the description below for those of you that want to come back to the system in the future on a full guide on Elixirs. But all you need to know is that they're power effects that come from the raid known as Voldis. It's actually an abyss dungeon, a 4-man dungeon, and you imbue these potions on your gear that essentially provide a few effects, either support buff effectiveness to your group or crit rate or crit damage, and they automatically go on your gear. The video will explain it, but you will get a full set of effective elixirs from just doing the event. Now, depending on whether you want crit rate or crit damage will be provided in your class guide, and you will see them on your gear. You can see that I have 40 set of elixir. That's all you need to know, and the guide will explain it further down below. That rhymed. Okay, we're back onto the live server. We're moving on to another progression system known as Transcendence. This comes from the raid, actually chronologically after Elixirs, known as Theamine, and it imbues on your gear. So if I press shift, I can actually condense all of the effects on my gear, because you can see all of the little flowers here. You can see those elixir effects that we talked about at the bottom. If I press alt on the gear and I can scroll down, I can see all of the things on my gear. So if I come down here to the Transcendence vendor and I right click on it, you're gonna see all of your equipment, right? The event will give you all of these items at level 5, which is a huge portion of it because all of them go to level 7. This is responsible for a lot of just flat damage on your character. What you have to understand in summary is that there are 7 stages that you will progress through, each one offering 3 flowers. You only need 20 flowers to get the full effect. Again, there will be a guide linked down below, but for these last few, what's important to note and how it's changed when you do this is it's just a Monopoly mini game where you're just gonna press a button and you're trying to make it around this square thing here, or whatever the shape is, with the allotted amount of turns. And each one of these little squares that you can land on give you a bonus super juice effect. It's like Monopoly meets Mario Kart. You don't even have to know this works. You can just press one button and you go around and you can see that I'm done. I got 3 flowers on this piece of equipment. When you want to try again, let's say you didn't hit it, right? You need to hit the 3 flowers and you just, you have 6 turns to do this to get 3 flowers, right? Achieve 3 flowers. If you succeed, return them within 6 times, right? If you don't hit it, you can try again. You can actually stop. Say, I'm not gonna make it, I'm gonna stop, I didn't get it within the allotted term, and you can retry. And the retrying part is the expensive part. But in the game and through events and the progression events, you're gonna get a lot of these tickets that let you retry for literally free. So you want to retry with these tickets. And you're gonna see these, if you press I, a lot of items get stored within different tabs in this game. And we have a lot of our progression material is just stored in its own unique tab. And you're gonna see restoration tickets weapon, and restoration tickets armor. You want to use these tickets when you attempt this because it's way cheaper and you're going to get a lot of them from just naturally playing the game and through the event shop that you'll see here in the top right and through the event vendor. You'll find a lot of these. Okay, moving on to some of the simpler systems, and we're almost done here. We have quality. Quality is on your gear, and you can see at the top of the gear, armor quality increases your HP, and weapon quality just increases the damage you deal. Weapon quality for supports is like a nothing burger, but if you're playing a DPS, you do want to get some good weapon quality because it'll increase your damage. And then for armor quality, it's nice to increase it because it does increase your character's HP pool. And there's a quality vendor in the town. I can come to this guy and I can tap my quality. Now, quality is normally pretty expensive to tap, but nowadays we get so many of these little processed chaos stones, which are free taps. At increasing my quality, it costs nothing. So the event will provide you these and you can try to work through your quality to increase them. The higher your quality currently is, the harder it's going to be to essentially get an upgrade. The numbers are weighted. To get like a 99% quality, it's pretty hard to get. To get something like 60 or 70, it's easy. Ideally, you want to get at least full blues and then try to hit the weapon. The weapon requires different stones, requires, red, whereas the armor requires blue. That's what the color means. Weapon, damage, armor, HP. Now, the last progression system we have in the game, we're on the live server here, is pets. You're gonna get a bunch of these through playing the game. Pets, they loot for you, but they also give you access to pet functions if you have Aura. I do recommend getting Aura if you like the game because it's a really nice quality of life. It lets you access remote storage from anywhere in the game. It lets you access the marketplace. It lets you access skin storage. You can repair your gear within the middle of a raid. It's super nice. It can let you access the mailbox. If you don't have Aura, then you can go to the towns and locate the storage keeper and then manually go to your storage. Pets can also provide stats to you. And depending on the build that you're playing, you're going to want to make sure you pick your primary stat. So if your class is crit primary based on the guide that you're following, you want to make sure you pick the right stat. So you can go to the pet vendor in any town and freely change the stats that your pet provides. So for this pet, it's my swiftness pet. I make sure I choose swiftness, and then you always take HP. Now, there are also some more advanced systems behind pet. You can upgrade your pets to legendary, and they can give you some extra benefits. I'm not gonna include that in this specific video because it's pretty minor, and I might make a video in the future, but you may hear players talking about pet legendary abilities. Not that crucial, at least to you right yet. Also, pets, like other games, they loot things for you. Just understand that you're going to naturally acquire pets by playing the game. You'll get them through Twitch drops. You'll get them through different events. Overall, you want to collect pets for different characters, for different stats that you can provide to your character. Just make sure you pick the right stat, as that's the most important thing to understand. Now listen up. You're probably thinking, bro, there are so many things in this game that are responsible for your character's power. Like, do you have to change these all the time, or how do you keep track of all these things? And I get you, but we have a very cool system in the game. If you press Alt-E, it is a preset loadout where you can name a preset. This is my no crit preset, guardian preset, depending on the type of content you're doing. And you can choose different presets for your character. So you can spend some time with this because if you go through the system, let's go back to our character sheet. I can have my engravings tab. You have other options that you can save loadouts to. You can save a gear loadout, you can save a skin loadout, you can save an engraving loadout, a gem loadout, a card loadout. And at some point when you're more familiar with the game, if you press Alt-E again, you can create these presets and just freely swap between them depending on the content that you are doing. This is for your Ark Passive tree. These are your battle items. We'll talk about that later. You have your gear, your skills. All of these things have different loadouts that you can save. And then you can save all of these to this sheet so you can freely swap depending on the type of content you're doing. You're not gonna do this a ton, but it is nice to have. Now, to wrap up this section, I wanna cover some of the game mechanics and game functions of the game when it comes to combat, and battle items. When you do the event, you're probably going to be provided with a ton of battle items, and you'll also notice that daily rewards offer battle items. When you get battle items, they are going to be stored in your inventory, but rather in a battle item storage tab. So if I press I, it'll open up my inventory. But if I go to the battle item storage, this is where all of my battle items go. And this is shared across your entire account. It is not per character. You can think of these battle items like Monster Hunter. You're going to bring these battle items with you into battle, and they'll provide different functions and features to aid you in battle. They're all categorized by, well, different categories. We have recovery potions, grenade, bombs, utility items, etc. The main ones that you're going to want to note are obviously recovery potions. They have the heart symbol and they're going to go on your bar. It's important to note that you can't bring multiple of the same type. So I can't bring 2 different types of grenades, but I can bring a grenade and a bomb. Hence, they're in different categories. The encounter that you are doing, if you're doing an end game raid, there will be a guide provided on those websites I mentioned earlier, and it will tell you what battle items to bring. Now, I do want to talk about some of the basic combat functions of the game and where you'd be using these items, as well as specific skills. So first and foremost, there is a combat feature known as stagger, and that's when the boss has an orange bar above his head. This means that you have to, within a short window, do enough stagger to stun the boss. That's going to be the window where you would use these whirlwind grenades. Additionally, your skills also deal stagger. If you hover over some of your skills, you'll notice that it says stagger max. That means this skill deals a lot of stagger, whereas some skills might not deal really any stagger or low stagger. So find out which skills deal a lot of stagger and make sure you use these grenades during that window. Similar is going to be destruction bombs. The boss will have a crosshair around him or at a specific body part of the boss, and you'll want to make sure you use destruction bombs during that window or destruction skills. If you look, your skills will say weak point level. Some skills do weak point level 2, some skills do no weak point. So you'll want to make sure you use skills, weak point level 1, that have weak point on them and throw these bombs to break the boss. And if you successfully do so, he'll be stunned for a damage window for you and your team to obviously deal a lot of damage. Now, outside of that, there are some other windows that the boss will present, one of them being known as countering. When the boss lights up blue or the mob lights up blue and it flashes, meaning the game wants you to counter him. And some of your skills have a counter on them. If you look at Crater Strike or Haymaker, it says counter yes, meaning that this is a counter skill. This means you want to use this skill directly on the boss facing him when he flashes blue, and if you land that counter, it'll stun the boss, again giving you and your team a large damage window. There is a new feature known as Just Guard. And Just Guard is when the boss will flash yellow, not blue light counter, but yellow. And instead of countering the boss here, you'll want to have your cursor aiming at the boss typically, and you'll want to use your G key. You'll press G when the boss flashes or when he does the animation, and that will prevent you from taking damage, and sometimes it will stun the boss as well. And Just Guard is a feature that you will first experience when you reach item level 1640. So you might not have to worry about this right away, but it is nice to know what Just Guard is because the game doesn't do the best job of explaining how it works. Okay, guys, I know that was a ton of information and a lot of boring stuff, but I did want to include it in the guide for those of you that want a better understanding of how some of this stuff works. With that being said, let's talk about what you can do in the game. How do you progress in the game? Where do you get materials? How does the game flow actually work? Well, if you press Alt Q, it's going to open up a content menu. It'll probably look like this when you start the game. If you note at the top right, there's a select UI and you can choose main content. This is the old menu. This is probably the menu that you will see. And when you reach tier 4, it will turn into this Kazaros war map. They all showcase essentially the same things. Let's start with the daily content. And there's not actually a lot. The first one is going to be known as Chaos Dungeons. Chaos Dungeons are essentially your Diablo style rifts, your Path of Exile maps. You're just gonna zone into a map and you're gonna blow up some mobs You will definitely want to bring a build specifically for Chaos Dungeons. The content itself probably takes like maybe 2 minutes or so with the proper build, but it will give you a lot of progression materials to obviously progress your character. It is nice to note that when you're doing this content, you should definitely have a pet out so you can auto loot this stuff. But this type of content will provide shards, a lot of them, silver, and then some of the other progression materials in order to progress your character. The next daily content we have are Guardian Raids, and Guardian Raids are essentially a ripoff from Monster Hunter. That's where a lot of the inspiration for this game came from. You and a team, you can go in solo if you want, will drop in on a map and you'll take down these Guardians, and these Guardians will also provide you with a lot of the progression materials that you'll need, like weapon stones, armor stones, leap stones, and some accessories. Sometimes there's events that are going on and they'll give you some gold as well. So there's a lot that you can earn through doing these Guardian Raids. Now, moving on to the weekly content, we used to have something called daily Unas. Those are no longer a thing. As you can see here, you can still do them, but they actually don't give you anything except reputation rewards. These weekly Unas you can complete for additional progression materials. They'll ask you to do a cube, or for example, to make it easier, they'll ask you to do some Guardian Raids and you'll get some more leap stones that we talked about earlier. And you can do these, and as you complete these, you'll earn tokens, and you can claim these tokens once a week. You can turn these tokens into the gold shop, and these will reward you with a random amount of gold that you can claim every week. Try to select weekly Unas for the activities that you'll normally be doing. So Guardian Raids are an easy one, and you'll definitely be doing Paradise, which we're going to talk about shortly. Make sure you do these per week so you can earn those extra tokens. This is account-wide progress, so all of your characters will contribute towards this. Each character will have their own weekly Unas that they can do, but you'll want to make sure you do these to try to earn additional tokens so you can start making some extra gold. Outside of Unas for weekly content, we have Legion raids and raids in general, and this is the whole reason why a lot of people play this game. There are a lot of raids to choose from in the game based on the item level, and the mission that you are doing, the event, will tell you to kind of go do these challenge versions of the raids. These will not eat the lockout for your character, right? You won't lose anything by doing these. It's just like a practice version of the raid, and they're much easier. Raids are going to be responsible for a large portion of your guaranteed weekly gold. Now, almost every raid in the game has multiple difficulties. You have normal mode, you have hard mode, and then now we have something called solo mode. And if you press on the adventure button, you can actually see all of the solo mode raids available in the game. And these are a step below normal mode, but they actually provide the same amount of gold as normal mode, but it's bound gold, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But you can do solo mode, and the nice thing about solo mode is they have this solo mode exchange, and there is a lot of good stuff in here that you can get on a one-time basis or a weekly basis. You can get a lot of shards here. You can get those fusion materials that you need. You can even get level 6 tier 4 gems, which are pretty huge. Quality taps that I talked about earlier. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Card experience silver. When you do a raid and it has a solo mode available for that raid, you will earn tokens regardless. You can do all of the raids in the game once per week, but you can only claim gold from 3 of them. So for example here, if I want to go do solo mode a con, I can click the solo mode button, I can press enter, and it will say, do you want to claim gold from this activity? You do not have to claim the gold to do the activity, and I would opt to choose the highest level raids that you can do that week to earn the most amount of gold. And you can see the rewards here by pressing get info, and it will show you the difference in rewards between the difficulties. Solo mode will give you 100% bound gold, or normal will give you unbound gold. Bound gold just means it can only be used on in-game vendors and progression systems. Unbound gold will let you spend gold on the market, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's how you can see the rewards, claim the ones that you want, and if you ever need more tokens because you ran out, you can simply just run other solo raids just for fun to earn more tokens. It's very valuable, especially as a new player. All right, guys, we're gonna talk about a brand new piece of content known as Paradise. It's a seasonal based piece of content. We're actually the first region alongside of China and Russia to get this content, and Korea won't get it until September. So there's not a lot of information or guides on this system in particular. I'm going to give you a general idea of how it works, but I will link a video down below if you want more information on how to do the system. And as time goes on, and depending on when you watch this video, there might be a more optimal way to do Paradise. But just at a glance, Paradise is like a chaos dungeon meets a boss rush meets like a cube. It's like 3 different things in one, and it's available to any character at 1580. Essentially, the way that this system works is you will run through a chaos dungeon piece of content, and you will do this content with default settings, and you're gonna have to create your own build that will work within this game mode. If you go in there with one of your raid builds, it might feel pretty bad. So you're gonna wanna find a build that works well outside of like engravings and stats and things like that. You're gonna kill these mobs, and when you kill these mobs, you're gonna notice that the mobs drop gear, and this is where your gear will come from. When you complete this stage, you're gonna notice that you press this little Legacy of Paradise thing, and you'll see these items that you've looted. These items will go into these gear slots, and you can progress through this system by essentially leveling up these slots. So you can actually break down your old pieces because there's no arrow. It's super simple to understand. You'll break it down, and then you'll be able to level up these slots. And as I level these slots up, it costs absolutely nothing, by the way. There's no gold cost. It's a free system. It's its own separate system. It doesn't cost gold, silver, or anything. You're gonna level up these slots, and that's how you're gonna get some of your power. So you'll see things like here, if I go to the next rank, I'm gonna get some, crit rate and skill cooldown. This will give me identity meter or special meter. And as you level this up, your power score is going to increase. You get 5 entries per week to farm gear through this like chaos dungeon system. And every week, we're gonna see more of these stages open up. And then I will take my gear, and then I will challenge a boss within the Crucible. The boss will have a recommended power score to take on. And as I challenge this boss, I have 1 minute to clear the encounter. And if I can clear the boss within 1 minute, you can see it's 20, 40, 60% of the boss's HP, 80% of the boss's HP, I cleared it. And as I progress through this, I can earn some more materials, silver, and then a chest if I can deal 60% of the boss's HP to get a chance at opening even rarer items for this system. And so this is like a pseudo ARPG system because all of these items have like unique effects on them that like launch arrows, shoot out blades. So you're gonna try to like create and craft your own custom build. There's a ranking system, and the ranking system is based on your class on a weekly leaderboard. So this is me because I'm on the private test server here, and I got ranked number 1. And every week they will distribute out rewards to the people on the leaderboard. Everybody gets a reward, but based on your class placement on your server, you'll get additional rewards. And then there's also end of season rewards. The main reward that you care about are something called hell keys, and you can see them here. And depending on your placement, you can earn higher rarity hell keys, etc., additional hell keys, and hell keys are used to enter this like tomb. This is kind of like Path of Exile tool, like the trial thing. You're gonna go in there and do this activity, and these keys, depending on the rarity of them, give you more attempts at making it down this 100 floor tower. Every time you get to the ledge, you can jump, and each jump can drop you anywhere from 1 to 20 floors. The deeper you make it down this tower, the further you get, the more rewards you'll get at the end. And there's chests to choose from that have a ton of different mats, and it can really aid your character progression. It's important to note that these progression materials are character bound. They're not account bound, they're character bound. So you only do this on the characters that you do care about. This is a big benefit to people that don't want to play a lot of characters because there's no like symbiotic sharing relationship. And instead it's a big buff to people that play maybe 1 or 2 classes, but it's also great for people that play a lot of classes. And if you want more information on this specific system, because you will be doing it week 1 of the patch and in the future, I'll have a link down below. All right, we're back on the live server. I want to talk about some other activities that you can do in the game outside of the daily and quote unquote weekly content. However, these do take place throughout the week. I got to wrap this video up. It's getting dark. You can see it in my room. The lighting has shifted. Okay, let's talk about some other pieces of content. We have the cube, the ebony cube. This requires a cube ticket. You can get these tickets through doing chaos dungeons. My cat was attacking my cable. Chaos dungeons will drop a cube ticket. And when you do a cube ticket, there are different levels of cube that require different tickets depending on the chaos dungeon that you do. The better the cube ticket, the better the juice. Okay, these things primarily give you some horizontal stuff, but they give you leap stones, they give you gems, they can give you silver, card XP, books for your engravings that we talked about earlier, and even the rare relic engravings. You don't have to worry about these, but these are worth absolute juice. It's an end game player progression system, so don't worry about that for now. Also, these things we call jelly beans. These increase the rate of honing, so they give you extra honing chances. They're rather expensive. A lot of this stuff is going to be bound though, so it's just to aid you in your progression, but you can sell the gems though. Cubes are super high value and you want to do them, especially if you're a new player, when you get them. And you can also find a weekly for them in the weekly tab when you press Alt-J. The other piece of content is known as the Chaos Gate. And these take place every Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, okay? You are going to want to do these, especially if you have a new account, because they're gonna generate some solid gold for you. And if you click on the calendar button here at the top left, you can click on like Thursday, this is the event day. And you can see on the right, you have Chaos Gate. These spawn on the map all over the world every hour, and they'll be in every zone, and it'll be like this little green symbol. You can even track where it'll spawn by just pressing this little key, and you can sort by item level. I'm 1700, so I'm gonna do the 1700 Chaos Gate. You'll do what you can, but these are going to drop shard bags. These shard bags are unbound, and when the event drops, these are going to be worth a lot of gold, and you're going to want to sell these because you're going to need this gold income, especially early on if you want to progress. So Chaos Gates, very important. I'll talk more about them later. The next piece of content is known as field bosses, and these spawn on Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. These are going to be useful for you, especially when you reach tier 4 or 1640. They're going to drop some progression materials, but they also drop some items that can be auctioned off, where higher item level players will bid on items like card packs or relic engravings, and you can get some of that gold. So do try to attend these. Also horizontal progression materials like blood claw maps, and when you reach tier 4, Enlightenment point potions, which if you remember from earlier, these Enlightenment potions are going to be useful for you to unlock more of your Enlightenment tree. So do not neglect the field boss, especially early on in the game. The next piece of content that you're going to want to hit up is called Adventure Island, specifically Gold Islands. And this is going to be crucial to you if you are brand new. And I'll explain more why at the last portion of the video. Gold Island or Adventure Island is the only source of unbound gold in the game in the early levels. Again, unbound gold is gold that you can use to interact with the auction house, and we're gonna need a little bit of that early on. So you can just check the calendar app again on the top left, and if you click on it, it will show you the islands, and you're gonna be looking for islands that reward gold. Now, I've already sorted it out for you. The day of the patch, Volair Island, that will be taking place throughout the day, every few hours, will reward gold, and you're going to want to hit that. And we can just simply press M on the map, press the right click, zoom out, and just type in Volair, and it will show us where it is. We want to attend this island. You'll do a little mini game, and you'll want to earn some of that unbound gold for completing that activity. It's going to be crucial at the very, very start. Moving on to horizontal content. This game has a lot of horizontal content. If you press Alt L on the keyboard, it'll open up this horizontal collectibles menu, and there are a lot of collectibles within Lost Ark. It'll ask you to go around the world and collect these Makoko seeds in every region of the game, and then in this menu, there's a whole collection system and reward system based on that. A lot of these are going to be optional rewards like wallpapers and mounts and different blueprints or titles, but some key progression materials are behind these systems. Like, for example, Island Souls can reward skill point potions, Giant Hearts can reward more skill point potions or runes. That's why I mentioned earlier, you should probably do your horizontal or Arkesia Tour early on week 1 to try to unlock a lot of these essential ones, because it will reward you with those essential progression systems from the horizontal content. So if you like collection content, be sure to do that. If you want the progression materials behind it, make sure you do the Arkesia Tour, which I talked about at the start of the video. Now, again, it's getting late and I've been here for hours recording this video. This is not all of the stuff that is available to you in the game, but it is a lot of what you do need to know. But I do want to wrap up this video because I know it's been a long one, and hopefully you've been using the timestamp so you're not sitting here for as long as I've been sitting here. I want to talk about what I would do and how you should approach the game, A, if you're a new player, or B, if you are a returning player, which is going to be a lot easier. As mentioned at the start of this video, guys, Lost Ark is not a game that you're going to zoom through in a couple of weeks. It is a long-term progression game that is something that takes time to build and snowball off of. It's not something that you're just going to complete in a month. With that being said, there is a lot of events that are taking place in the month of July. There's a bunch of events that are going to be coming in the future. We actually have another event coming in August with the release of female paladin known as Valkyrie. And I want to give you some advice on how you should approach these events and what you can do to better your progression. Additionally, there's still a lot of fun to be had in the earlier stages of the game with a lot of boss encounters that you might have missed or never even done in the first place. And even if you play for a couple of weeks, there's really a lot of fun to be had. So I kind of want to guide you in that direction as well. Let's start off if you are a new player. Well, you're going to be in this town, most likely using the Power Pass, and you're going to be staring at this challenge menu, Express Makoko Challenge. The first mission is to take on Bolton Solo Challenge, which again, the challenge mode is just a really easy, noob-friendly version of Bolton. Does not eat up a raid lockout. You're just going to be doing it for the actual event itself. And then you can challenge the boss for real later if you want and opt to not claim gold. It's going to reward you with these honing books that we saw earlier. That's going to increase your honing chances. You can see that on the screen. And then once you clear it, you're going to get some rewards like card packs and the engravings we talked about. These are potions that can reset the entry for chaos dungeons and guardian raids because they were once per day. Silver shards, weapon crystals, armor crystals, leap stones, and solo raid vendor tokens, and maybe some gold. Following that, it's going to ask you to register some cards to your catalog. And again, if you press Alt-C, you can open your card catalog and you can see all of the cards that are available to you. But after you register these cards and you try gear honing, you'll get some more rewards. It will also give you some life skilling tools, which we'll talk about in a second, and it'll give you some gold. Once you have completed this, I would stop. I would not go any further. I would hone my gear one time, claim the rewards, and I would stop here. And you have two options at this point. Option one, which might be a little bit more boring, is going to be going through the Arkesia Tour. The benefit of doing this first is it's going to provide you skill point potions and the runes to actually make your build feel a little bit more online. This will probably take you about an hour or so. If you don't want to do that, that is completely okay. You can do that after the fact. Some people would argue against this, but I want to prioritize fun here. Your other alternative is to go to this adventure button and go to solo mode, and I would challenge all of the solo modes up until a con, and I would do these and not claim the gold, right? So when we click solo mode and enter, we do not check the gold option that's going to pop up on the screen. We're going to uncheck that. If you check it by accident, just exit the raid and then redo it without checking the box. The reason we're going to do that is we're going to want to farm more of these clear metals. The event will provide some, but you want as many of these as you can so you can buy as many materials that you might need. If you're a new account, there's tons of shard bags here. And again, there's weapon crystals, armor crystals, leap stones. And we're also going to want a lot of these tokens for these tier 4 gems on other characters in the future, quality taps, etc. But it will give you the ability to play your class and just move around on the character to see if you enjoy it and just get the vibe of the class rather than just navigating menus and like going through different like quests and things like that. Just prioritize having a little bit fun. If you do the Arkesia Tour first, it will feel a little bit better because you'll have more of the runes and skill points to finish out your build, because it's going to assume that you don't have the extra skill points to level up your skills. Up to you, do it how you want to, but those are the first 2 things that I want you to do after completing this first page. The next thing that I'm going to want you to go do is check and see if there is, as mentioned earlier in the video, a gold island that will be taking place that day or any other day, and mark it. Check it, add it to your calendar to give you an alert. You can press the plus button. Again, you can just click on each island. We're looking for Adventure Island, and we're looking for one that provides gold that day. For the day of the patch, it will be Volair Island, and it happens throughout the day. And then the next day after that, it's going to be also on Saturday. But just understand that any day that week, depending on when you start out the game, you're really going to want to see if there is a gold island that's going to be taking place, because we're going to need that gold early on because we want unbound gold. So don't miss that island. Make sure you attend it. And even if you get 500 to 800 gold, that is going to be enough. The next thing that I'm going to want you to note is that you're going to get some legendary life skill tools. This is something that we're going to want to work on ASAP. We're gonna have this life skilling box, and we're gonna grab these life skilling tools and we're gonna equip them, and it's going to go to our trade skills tab. If we press L, we're going to see them equipped. You're gonna want to immediately begin working on life skilling. For this guide, I'm going to recommend logging. Okay, logging is something that's going to generate you a lot of gold early on. Now, in the beginning phases, you're going to have to level this up, but it will not take you very long. It might take you 1 day to get to a point. And when I say 1 day, I mean like 30 to 40 minutes before you run out of life skill energy. If you press B, there's only so much life skilling that you can do per day before you deplete your life skill energy. So it won't take you very long. You can find items like within the Ark Pass. I believe there is some potions that you can earn to gain more life skill energy. This is pretty fat value here. It's a lot of gold, but you're going to want to start working on your logging immediately. Some place that you can start is going to be Lullaby Island is a great place to begin your life skilling journey. All you'll have to do is just make your way towards the dock. If you press ready to sail, when you press M or boat or ocean liner, you go to Tortoic, just click that. It'll take you here. And then you can go towards the dock here, and then just exit, and you'll want to sail towards Lullaby Island. That's going to be an island where I recommend a lot of new players go, because there's not going to be a lot of mobs in the area. You can also sail in this game. Maybe I'll make a separate video on that. You might have a ship already set. If you press Alt left click, you can auto sail to the area. If your ship breaks down along the way, it's not a big deal. You can just repair it at the dock. But we're going to make our way to Lullaby Island, and we're going to try to cut down as many trees as we can to begin leveling up our logging. While we're on the way, there are other areas in the game that you can log. You can also log in Voldis. By the way, you can see that there's a Chaos Gate spawning. We talked about that earlier. This is the symbol of the Chaos Gate. But you can also log in this area on the right. There'll be a couple of spawns here on the map, and they're a bit slower on respawn, but there's no mobs around the area. And when you're logging, it's kind of annoying when there's mobs attacking you. But this is the next thing that I'm going to recommend you do. And then if you look at the mini map, you can just see that there's a piece of wood here. We're going to walk up, press B to switch to your life skilling tab so you can see your energy, and just press G. And we're going to want to cut down some trees, and we're going to gather and drain out this life skilling bar and start working on leveling up our life skilling, because as we level up life skilling at level 30, we get kick. And when you get kick is when you're going to get a big increase in the amount of life skill materials and wood you acquire. It's a huge boost to life skilling. It's going to pop up on your loadout here, and it will glow when it's ready to go. There's more in-depth ways on how to proc this chance. This is very min-maxy. It can increase your life skill gain, the materials you gain, by around 20%. So that will be found in the life skill guide below. But this is something that I want you to do almost immediately, because we want to make use of this life skill energy ASAP, because this is where we're going to get a lot of the gold that we are going to need to progress through the game. Now, while you're life skilling, the next thing that I'm going to tell you to do is I want you to check the calendar and see when the Chaos Gate is going to be spawning. As I mentioned earlier, Chaos Gate, depending on the item level that you're at, is going to drop these tradable shard bags. And whenever there's an event going on, shards are going to sell for a lot. So we want to get those shard bags. We are not going to use them at all. We're going to save them and we're going to post them on the market to increase our gold revenue by a solid amount. For you as a new player, getting an extra 5K gold, every other day or so is going to be absolutely massive in our progression, because you're only getting a couple thousand from these raids. So this is a great way to take advantage of all of the gold resources available to you. The thing that's important to note here, though, is that as we're doing this, we're going to be using that island gold, that unbound island gold, as a source of unbound gold. And unbound gold is necessary to get past the deposit cost. When you deposit an item on the auction house, if you go to our storage setting here, press inventory I, go to storage, I can post this wood, okay? Or I can post some of these. This is the test server, so there's nothing available. It's gonna cost a deposit. So if I post this thing for like 100, it's gonna cost some depositable gold. You can obviously see here that we don't need a lot of gold to post, but we need some. So to post those shard bags or these life skill materials, we want to make sure we get that unbound gold from the island. And we want to make sure we start getting this life skill material to post. And we want to make sure we get those bags from the Chaos Gate to post to aid us in our progression. After we've drained out our life skilling, or at any point, we can go towards our Stronghold. Our Stronghold is like a garrison from World of Warcraft. If you've played that, it's like your housing system kind of in this game. If you go towards this adventure tab, you have a sheet music, and this is kind of how, if you did the MSQ, how you can port around to specific areas, or Song of Escape to quickly leave an area, or go to the training room known as Trixion. But the Stronghold will be one of those options. You also unlock your Stronghold through a guide quest early on in the MSQ, but it should be unlocked for you through the Power Pass. But if it's not, check your guide tab and you'll see a quest for Stronghold. Just do that, and we're gonna make our way to the Stronghold. You're gonna zone in, and it will look something like this, and you can teleport around here. The Stronghold has a few key features in it. There's some quests that you're gonna want to complete in the Stronghold. You don't have to do them all. There should be some more guides out from my homies that will better explain the system. But for the sake of this video, we're going to want to go towards the farm. The farm is where a lot of our life skilling materials will be converted for gold. The first thing is, if you press Control 1, it will open up this menu of all the things that you can access at your Stronghold. And you can see the Stronghold is a pretty big, large area. It's like your own remote island, as I mentioned earlier. One of the things is gonna be your workshop. The workshop, you can craft valuable stuff for your character, but in order to do that, we're gonna have to unlock some key recipes to begin crafting. So when we're looking at the lab, again, I want to show you here that if you have available research, not all research, because you need to progress your Stronghold to research certain things, but if you go to available research, you will see crafting recipes for this fusion material called Abydos. In the tier 3 section, it is called Areha, but this is where this material comes from. This material is worth a lot because in order to generate it, it comes from life skilling. Most players just buy the material off the auction house. However, we're going to take advantage of the fact that not a lot of people life skill, and we're going to use life life skilling materials to either A, craft it, but in the early game, we're going to sell the materials needed to craft it to make a lot of gold. So if you want to learn the recipe on how to craft it using logging, you can see that this is crafting Abydos material logging, but that's not so important for us because we're not going to even be crafting this stuff early on. We're just going to be selling the materials, but I did want to show you how you research and learn it. What's more important is if we go to the farm, and you can get to the farm by just pressing this teleport thing again and going to the farm location. In the farm area, there is this vendor. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to convert all of the green timber we have and all of the blue timber we have into the white timber. And on the next page, you can convert your white timber to logging powder. And with logging powder, we can buy tier 4 Abydos timber. This is to craft the fusion material that a lot of people need for honing. Once we've crafted it, it's going to go into our storage in the Stronghold section. You'll see it here. Now you need 100 of these to post it on the marketplace. I didn't really drain any of my life skill energy, as you can see, so I didn't get a lot of it, but we can post this on the market by going to add item and boom. And once we post it, we're going to need a deposit, a small amount. So we just want to post any amount. If you have 100, it might cost you like maybe 100 gold to post or 50 gold to post. But we need that unbound gold to do that. And we're going to sell this material, and per 100 stack, this will sell for quite a bit. I think it's around anywhere, depending on when you're watching this video, maybe 12 to 1500 gold per 100 stack. And once you reach tier 4, which is 1620, that will give you the chance to even log straight up Abydos timber. You won't have to convert. You'll still be doing the conversion, but we want to convert everything into Abydos timber, post on the marketplace, and use that unbound gold to generate additional gold that we can use in our progression. So life skilling is going to be huge for you early on top of those gold islands and those chaos gates that I mentioned earlier. Outside of that, we have those daily activities like the chaos dungeon, we have the guardian raid, and we have our Alt J, if you press that again, our weekly Una's tasks to get these tokens to convert at the gold shop that I mentioned earlier. All of that gold income is going to be super helpful. All of that material income is going to be super helpful for us. And then we have our weekly raid gold income. You have your solo raids here. And ideally, you want to do the solo raids closest to your item level for the most gold. The higher item level of the raid, the more gold you are going to earn. So if you can earn some of that gold from those activities that we talked about, and it can aid you in reaching maybe 1600, because that's the second checkpoint of the event, which this, by the way, will also give you more gold, you can do that as well. By the way, the second mission will give you those elixirs that we talked about earlier. You can do that as well to try to maybe achieve reaching the 1600 raid. And don't forget, we also have paradise rewards. After the first week of paradise takes place, remember, you mentioned earlier, you're also going to be getting these paradise boxes when you clear the boss. These are extra materials, and if you're able to clear the boss, there's also a chest that you'll receive, which will give you additional materials. You get to choose between tier 3 and tier 4. You're obviously going to be taking tier 3 because that's where you're going to be. And then when the week resets, based on our ranking, every player, no matter what, will get 3 keys. That has a chance of giving you gold as well. The goal for us here is to try to progress towards 1620 item level. If we can get that within maybe 2 resets, the reset takes place every Wednesday, that would be fantastic. The reason we want to get to tier 4 is because when we reach tier 4, there's going to be a lot of group raiding that will take place. Now, group raiding, you're probably thinking, oh, what about the gatekeeping? I'm new, I don't know. You're going to have been doing some of these solo raids. You're going to be doing some of the things that I mentioned to go through some of the things and looking at the class guides to get familiar up until this point. We don't want to go too fast. We just want to collect as many resources as possible. We're going to gain access to Makoko Bootcamp. Players will be doing group raids such as Echidna or Behemoth. These are raids that players do in group settings, and you're going to have the Makoko icon. And players with the Makoko Bootcamp get rewarded by playing with you. And when you do content with other players that are veteran players, you also get rewarded through the system, through the exchange shop in the Makoko Bootcamp event, which will be located on the top right of your minimap. That's going to give us additional progression. So the goal is so we can get to tier 4 after a couple of weeks, unlock that group rating content, and Remember, you can also begin life skilling some of the tier 4 materials. That Abydos timber, it starts dropping off those trees straight up. So we can convert our materials to powder. We can get the Abydos straight up from the vendor and from the tree itself. And that's going to be a lot of gold making. The reason we don't want to go too quickly is because in August, Valkyrie releases, and Valkyrie will have her own event that you can also take advantage of on an existing character. If you look here in August, they're adding in an additional event called a road or a path. And usually this is an event that takes place more of in the middle game that you'll be able to claim as well. So the first couple of weeks, we want to get our income rolling. We want to get the snowball going, and then we can claim this extra event that will give us even more juice. And this is what I recommend. I recommend you do some of the steps I talked about. You can ask me more specifics on the live stream, but following what I just suggested will be very crucial to you in progressing at a solid pace without overwhelming yourself too much. And a lot of the time when people play this game, they don't know these types of things and they just stare at this stupid menu and they like, how do I progress? I'm stuck. I need more gold. I need more shards. I need more leap stones. And you're just trying to hit these item levels without knowing the proper way to progress as a free-to-play player. Now, with that being said, all of these things that I just mentioned are infinitely easier to progress through if you already have an existing account, you have other characters, you have other ways to progress, maybe you have some leftover gold. You can really do whatever you want to do as a returning player. If you're a returning player, you probably have somewhat of an established account. My advice to you is to just progress through the event, but do not miss out on the life skilling portion of this video. You want to also be life skilling because it is currently so valuable to do so. You need to start looking at that life skill bar as an extra raid because it can make a serious amount of gold. It makes so much gold, you guys, that it's something that I do on my account. Additionally, both you and the new player will want to be focusing on trying to progress through Paradise because Paradise, you guys, is a major source of income. There's a lot of calculations out there on how much it's going to aid your account progression, and it's pretty large, and everyone has access to this system. And I'll probably dive a bit deeper on how you can properly go through Paradise with some efficient strategies, etc., as I get more info on the system. As a returning player, you are going to be taking advantage of the Makoko bootcamp system that we just touched on not too long ago. You're going to be someone that's going to benefit from the system quite a bit. You're probably going to be a little bit more progressed. You might even be in tier 4. There's a quest to advance in tier 4. If that is the case, just focus on doing the Unas, the Chaos Dungeons, the dailies, and then trying to claim some of these Makoko tokens as well. Continuing on, after those couple of weeks have taken place, we'll probably be approaching the August patch for Valkyrie and her event. And we're going to again use that event to juice us up a little bit further. And with that progression, we can then take on the 1660 challenge, which will have a bunch of extra progression materials and gold. And it's going to make the journey way easier. We don't want to exclude ourselves from any of these rewards because sometimes there's an item level cutoff, and that's probably not going to happen to you even if you try really hard. I can't see you going that fast, but if for whatever reason you do, you get super lucky or you hit a big item or something happens in Paradise, just kind of make sure you don't go too far. I would probably park at the very least at 1660 to see what the rewards are, but I would try to get accustomed to the game, especially if you left off in tier 4. A lot has changed, the classes have changed, and most likely the reason why you stopped is A, you went to go pick up another game and you just had fun playing that, and that's totally based, or B, maybe you got a little bit burnt out, but the game has changed quite a bit. So I would just focus on having fun, clear out all of the vendors, take advantage of the Makoko bootcamp buff, try to knock out some of these challenges, and still I would advise you to slow roll going into August to try to min-max all of these events. Regardless, you already know the drill. Hit your dailies, hit your weeklies. They're way easier than before. The tier 4 raids, you guys, they have a res now. So even if you enter that content and you die and you make a mistake, you're just going to resurrect. People aren't going to care. They're going to invite you because of the Mokoko buff, and just enjoy the game for what it is. Even if you play for a couple of weeks, it's all good. That's my advice to someone that's returning, guys. If you're returning to the game, just play through the events and then go dip and go do something else. And if you want to stay and you enjoy the game and you continue playing, have at it. You know what I mean? But it's not like this eternal contract where you're stuck playing the game. There's lots of content that's accessible to you that you can just enjoy. Even enjoying some of the solo raids that you might have missed, in my opinion, is totally worth it. Now, there probably are a bunch of specific questions that you might have as a returning player. You can leave those in the comment section below, and after the first couple of weeks this video is released, I'll try to answer them. Or again, you can just go to my live stream. If you have questions about endgame systems, like maybe you have questions about karma, or you want to know about relic engravings, you can ask me those on my stream and I'll give you a more in-depth answer there. But for the returning player, remember why you stopped playing in the first place, and just don't do those things and just have fun with what the game is. Enjoy the combat, enjoy the raids, farm as much as you can, and then just peace out and go play other shit. Now, it's getting late as absolute shit, and I am over recording this video, guys. It has been like 5 hours and I feel terrible for my editor. For those of you that are wondering what I should buy in the cash shop if you opt to spend money in the game, the first thing that you can consider buying is the North Curzon Power Pass. If you go to the character select, when you get the event character, you get the option to pay the difference in the Power Pass options. It doesn't show here on the event server because it's bugged, but you can buy the latest Power Pass. You're going to be given a South Curzon Power Pass, and I think you can buy a North Curzon Power Pass. The difference there is like 10 bucks. That will put you at 1600, which will skip some of the early game honing and will automatically make you eligible for the second part of the event. That is pretty damn good value if you want to do it. I think it's like $12. So it is up to you. You will also skip a portion of the MSQ. That MSQ does give you some materials and rewards, but it's not that big of a deal. It's like maybe 20%, but it is 100% better value than just buying gold. I already did the math for you, so you don't have to worry about that at all. And then again, it'll make you eligible for the second portion of the event. So that is totally up to you. Second thing that I'd recommend is getting the Ark Pass. It's pretty damn good value and pretty affordable. I think it's like 15 bucks maybe if we look at it. It's like 15 bucks and it's going to give you access to the second track, which will have a lot of good stuff, including some of these Abydos materials, which are pretty expensive. Like this is 600 Abydos. Like that's a solid amount of gold, some extra card packs, shards, things like that. That's good value. The last thing that I'd recommend is just buying the Crystalline Aura. You can get this. It's going to give you, functions like in raid repair, mobile storage. You can buy the Crystalline Aura if you like the game. You can also get it with gold. You can also just convert your gold into blue crystals if that's something that you want to do. You can ask me again more about that in the comments or at my live stream. But those are the things I recommend. Crystalline Aura in the cash shop, Ark Pass, premium track, or I'd recommend buying the story skip, as it will put you at 1600 item level, which is 15 item levels ahead of where you start. And that will save you some time and progression materials. And it is pretty good value. Overall, guys, if you follow my strategy with an event and you can make it into tier 4 after about 2 weeks, maybe 2 resets, I should say, that's pretty solid speed. And if you do swipe or you are a returning player, it's going to be even easier in that. You might even get it there the first week. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. I am cooked. I know it was a lot of information. Please use the timestamps listed down below to skip around the video. If you made it this far in the video, I'm sure you're just as fried as me, but hopefully it was informative. It was a lot to put this together. But if you have any questions, you can use the comment section down below and I'll try to answer your questions. Again, you can go to my live stream. I'll be there all week of the patch or in the future, and you can ask me more specific questions there. Any of the links or websites that I mentioned throughout the video will be in the description below. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one.